This entitled mum has no boundaries and completely breaks any privacy with her children. She even goes so far as to read her daughter's personal diary without her consent. Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. Hey guys, I remembered another story from our cult that involved entitlement. We were always taught that privacy was the devil's playground. So things like having your own room, locking or even shutting a door, unless you were preserving modesty, was not allowed. In congruence with that thought process, we were not allowed to have diaries. We could only have journals. The difference was explained as, a diary is selfish and vain and encourages secret sins. A journal is meant to record how God is working in your life and to edify other people who read it. It was a standing rule in our house that my mum could read our journals whenever she wanted and talk to whoever she wanted about what she found there. Then I would ask her not to tell people what she read. She said what she always said, "If you don't want people to know what you did, don't do it." Then one year, I was volunteering at a summer camp in another state and was having a really hard time. I was one of only 5 people in the kitchen, cooking for the entire ranch, and we were working from 6 AM to 9 PM, and grudgingly allowed a 5-minute lunch break to inhale some food after everyone else had been served, before we had to get back to work again. After 2 weeks, everything hurt and I was exhausted, but I couldn't show it because everyone had a mentality of being rough and tough and muscling your way through life. I stopped guarding my feelings in my journal. My mum wasn't there to read it after all, so I wrote freely about how much I hated it there and how much I wished I could just go home. It was my one comfort, and those pages are still warped from how much I cried on them. Then one day I was on the phone with my mum and she said, "Go get your journal and read to me what you've written so far." I panicked and asked if I had to, and she said, "Are you keeping secrets?" "No." "Then you have nothing to hide." So I read all the stuff I had carelessly written down. I knew if I didn't read exactly what I had written, she would check it later and I would be in trouble. It went well though. She said I had to stay there because it was where God had sent me and I had things to learn. But she didn't get mad or lecture me, and I thought it was all okay. That next week, a boy from my home church came up to me and said, "OP, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I was confused because time had passed and I'd forgotten about that phone call. He said he read the newsletter one of my mums back home sent us, and it had a special note to encourage me. Everyone got this newsletter from her. It always had a Bible verse for each of us in it, but that week mine had a note attached about seeking God's strength and how she and everyone else was praying for me during this difficult time. Everyone got this newsletter. Now everyone knew I was unhappy and wanted to leave. Humiliated, I called my mum again and cried on the phone about how she could share that sensitive information I gave her. She acted shocked and said, "Well, you didn't say not to tell anyone." I said, "Did I really have to tell you that? I didn't want just anyone to know that stuff? Did you really think I'd be okay with everyone on the ranch knowing what I wrote in my journal?" "Well, how was I supposed to know other mum would put it in the newsletter?" That's just it though, you don't know what other people will say, so you're supposed to keep sensitive information to yourself, especially as my mother. "As your mother, it is my job to seek counsel for you, so you can know God's will for your life. You don't get to decide where God's counsel will come from." I just sighed. I wasn't going to win this argument, and the damage was already done. I just said, "So if I ask you to keep something secret, you will do it?" "If you say, 'Mom, I need you to keep this between us,' then yes, I will." I accepted that as the best I could get. The next week, the newsletter came out and I read under my Bible verse, "OP, I sent you your own letter." Not again. This time I got an extra letter apologizing to me for what happened last time. I appreciated that she was trying to make it right, but in reality, it just felt like the whole thing was repeating itself all over again. Everyone read my encouraging note from last time, read that I was being sent my own letter this time, then watched me be handed my own letter. I just shut off all my emotions and became a robot until I was transferred out of the kitchen. I stopped writing in my journal except to take notes in church. And no, my mum did not keep secrets between us after that. History is full of powerful people using God and religion to control others. And subtly, but a lot more frequently, Entitled parents do this to control their children. Using God's name in vain entails a lot more than just saying OMG. If you deny someone the right to their privacy, the right to have their own thoughts and keep them to themselves, and you're saying that you're doing it in God's name, well, I think you're gonna get a very unpleasant surprise on Judgment Day. In the cast, Dad, entitled Father, Mum, MIL, Mother-in-law, also entitled but not in this story, BF, Boyfriend, now my soon-to-be husband, Lena, boyfriend's foster sister, same age as myself, Bob, a close family friend of my and my boyfriend's families, Jim, my uncle, not by blood, just close family friend, and Ted, my son. The story. So my whole life my dad mentally and occasionally physically abused me. I'm talking calling me names or useless, screaming if I so much as dropped a pencil, or played with Lego and other toys too loudly. It was actually not that loud according to Mum. I soon discovered my passion in jewelry making and Dad claimed to support me, but then wouldn't let me work on it in the house. So then I got back together with my ex, who Dad broke us up. This is posted in another story. We were planning for me to move in with him, his siblings and his parents to finally get away from Dad. I was 21 and boyfriend was 23. This was supposed to happen at the end of Halloween. As of the nature of my dad, I kept packing in such a secret as he hated my boyfriend's family. They used to be best friends, but the falling out also was posted in the breakup story. So I wasn't just moving in with people I didn't know. I knew them for 10 plus years and stayed at their house a million times. And boyfriend and I were together for 4 years before Dad forced us apart. Well, Mum went into my room. The agreement was since I was an adult, my room was mine and no one was to enter. My parents had respected that, but my sister had told Mum I was planning on moving. Thanks, sis. And she saw all my items packed up. She then told Dad right away. Dad got mad, screaming, "How dare you betray me for them!" and how I was a terrible daughter, and hitting things. I feared for my life is how bad it was. He threatened to lock me up and never let me leave, or I couldn't take anything with me. I bought most of it myself, or was bought by my grandparents. He then went out with Mum for a drive to talk with her away from myself, slamming the door behind him. I called my boyfriend and told him what happened, and right away he told his mum and Lena. They then called Bob and Jim to get me the freak out of there, as they were also scared for me. No, my boyfriend's family lives an hour and a half away and had zero way of getting to me. Lena called a cop friend to ask for advice, and even he said, "Get her the F out of there now." So they did. Bob came with his trailer and a friend, and packed it, and both my car and his friend's truck, and took me to Jim's. Jim was at work but managed to get Bob to pick up his key. I'll get to more of that in a sec. As we were packing, my parents got home and had a cow, screamed and yelled how I was ungrateful, and once you walk out that door you can never come back, and don't expect any financial support from us. So I did. I walked out. Dad tried to restrain me, but Bob was a lot stronger and stood between us. He was a probation officer, I think. All I know is he worked in jails and such. We went to Jim's house and unhitched the trailer and unpacked his friend's truck until I could get to BF's house. Jim had let me stay on his couch until work managed to transfer me to a closer location to BF, which ended up being 3 days instead of the company's policy of 2 weeks. But they knew my situation as I had asked them to not let my parents in and explain why I needed to be transferred. They already were processing it for the end of October anyways. But because management loved me, they forced it through fast enough so that I could go to my new home and stay safe. Jim was like a brother to my parents, but even explained to me that he saw the mental anguish Dad put me through, but couldn't prove it as there was a court trial when I was younger, which resulted in a whole clusterfrick of 2 older siblings living with their mother. Dad won the case though, and he was deemed not guilty of it, and only stayed friends with him to keep an eye on my sister, Mum, and myself in case Dad got physical. Bob was a close friend through Jim. He got close to my family through all of our love of D&D type games. Then we started with the volunteer group and became even more like family to each other. My family, BF's family, Jim and Bob were, and all but my parents and sister still are, a part of this group. So this is why he helped with all of this. Bob came Saturday and helped me move to my new home. My parents were banned from my new work location, popular thrift store for those wondering, to keep me safe. My mom took Dad's side. Yes, I made full-time money, but had just bought my first car, so I had nothing left to get an apartment. I got a lot of threatening and hurtful messages from my mother after I moved. Why would you move in with those inbred R words? And if you ever had a kid, it'll need a helmet and a cork on the end of its fork. Can't even make this stuff up. Needless to say, after I moved, my mental state became so much better. I went to 3 to 5 panic attacks a day to maybe 1 a month. And yes, the March after I moved, I got pregnant with my adorable little son. 16 months old now. Jim is now my son's godfather. Bob is an amazing honorary uncle. My parents and I, sort of, made up for my son, though Dad's pushing it after yelling about him being too loud playing, and making rude comments about my soon-to-be in-laws. I'm getting married to my BF in the summer of 2021, and although I hope Dad comes, it will be my son walking me down the aisle. Besides, my dad has stated, "If you get married when living under her roof, mother-in-law, then don't even think of seeing me." Well, joke's on him, because we are living there for the next 3 years to pay off debts. Thanks, Dad, as I had to use my credit card after I moved to afford the bare necessities as my boyfriend was between jobs and now in debt, and to hopefully save for a house. Now, if the daughter was something like 14 or 15, you can understand why they'd freak out about her leaving home. But the fact of the matter is that she was 21. She'd been an adult for many years, and she's leaving for a really good reason, for the sake of her physical and mental health. Of course, entitled parents that mistreat their children like that are never going to see it from their child's perspective. The background. Recently, a friend made me a homemade mask to wear to work because she's worried about me being in my work environment at 31 plus weeks pregnant. I work in a center for developmentally disabled adults, and we are considered essential as a mental health facility. I know it's a risky situation for me to continue to work there, but I need the money to pay for bills my husband can't cover working from home, such as my schooling and our birth plan. I didn't start wearing a mask to work until this week, and it's not standard at my workplace, so I was the only one wearing one. Keep in mind that our members don't understand the concept of hygiene or limiting spread of disease and illness. I regularly get spit on at work, and since respiratory droplets are the main concern, protecting my face as much as I can and wiping down surfaces regularly is my way of staying as safe as possible. I'm not paranoid, but I am alert about the virus, so I carry around my own brand of multi-purpose wipes that are softer on the skin and safer for me than the Clorox wipes. If I catch the virus, it will likely destroy my plan for home birth, and therefore accumulate hospital bills we are not prepared to pay for, put me at a higher risk of complication during labor, and prevent my support person from attending me during the birth. The only person in this story are myself and the entitled dad. I actually don't know whose father he is because I'd never met him before until now, and I didn't stay long enough to find out. The story. It was the end of the day, and all the members were heading home en route or being picked up by family members. I was wearing my homemade mask and walking my member out to their van when a man approached me from the sidewalk. "Hi, do you work for company?" "Yes, I do. Can I help you?" At this point, I didn't know he was one of the parents of our current members. We get new parents coming in all the time, as well as strangers curious about the functions of the place. "Are you a nurse? Is one of the kids sick?" "No, actually, I'm a caregiver. So far as we know, there haven't been any cases of the virus at any of our facilities. Are you a parent of one of our members?" "Why are you wearing a mask if no one is sick?" "I'm wearing it for protection, to prevent the spread of illness as much as possible. By the way, I'm very clearly pregnant at this point." "But when you take the mask off, you spread the sickness more." I was confused about what he was saying and wasn't really sure how to respond. "What do you mean?" "When you touch the mask, all of the particles get on your hands and face, so you're just accumulating germs by wearing it. It would be safer not to wear anything." Me slowly processing everything he just said. "I'm not sure that's how it works." "I know it is because I've been following the news. Do all the caregivers wear masks now?" "No, I don't think anyone else but me wears one. I'm just trying to be extra careful." "Don't you think that's rude?" "What?" "I'm saying it's rude for you to wear a mask because it's like you're saying all the members are sick. My son isn't sick. How do you think he feels when you wear the mask around him?" "I'm sure he doesn't care." "It's degrading."
You're acting like my son is diseased and putting up a barrier. It's not even doing anything for you because if anyone here had the virus, I'm sure you'd get it anyway.
If I did have the virus, wouldn't you be happier knowing there was a barrier between myself and your child?
Are you saying you have it then? I'd be happier knowing you were at home and nowhere near this facility getting everyone else sick.
I'm saying I could be. Anyone here could be an asymptomatic carrier, and honestly, we should all be wearing masks. I felt like at this point it was a good time to walk away, so I went back into the center to gather my things. I didn't see the ED on the way out, so I didn't figure out whose dad he was. Well, if he follows the mainstream media news, then of course he knows better than everyone else. It feels pretty hard to trust the news when they're like, okay everyone, don't wear a mask because, it could be even worse if you wear a mask than if you don't wear one. And our medical staff need them to protect themselves. So it's like, okay, so it doesn't protect us, but it magically can protect the medical staff. Okay? Oh, but now we actually want everyone in the entire country to be wearing one all the time. And journalists are like, why don't they treat us seriously anymore? Submit your story to be read on the channel at VoiceyHereStories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.